Is this the offseason that David Stearns finally changes up his pitching philosophy, gets aggressive, and gets an ace here in Queens to be the number one of the rotation? We are talking about this topic right here as a continuation from the discussion of our stream last night on the Mets Hot Stove live stream. I'll link that if you missed it in the description down below. And before we fully get into this discussion, as always, right here on this video, make sure to smash those thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more Mets offseason content all offseason long right here. You don't want to miss out, and comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you believe in David Stearns parting ways with the necessary prospects of the names that we're going to be talking about on this video as the rumors are swirling when trade season comes around this offseason? I'm pretty sure everybody has heard, at least within the Mets fan base, a fan base that is so desperate right now with the way that the pitching staff looked in 2025, not having a clear ace to lead the charge to a postseason bid. A fan base that's desperate for an ace to come to Queens and change the look of the pitching. Tarik Skubal. We are here to talk about Tarik Skubal and the belief that David Stearns and the Mets might be involved in a potential trade with the Tigers for Skubal this offseason. As you see, the latest report from Will Salmon suggesting that the Mets will be interested and in play for a potential trade of Tarik Skubal should the Detroit Tigers make him available. Now, for those of y'all who are wondering and need some background context, in case you haven't heard, I know I'm a little bit late to make this video, but Tarik Skubal is reportedly $250 million apart from what the Detroit Tigers are kind of setting up for these contract negotiations. He is a free agent after this upcoming 2026 season, and he is going to want to get a bag this offseason or next offseason whenever he decides to sign his next contract. And you're asking, why would he sign an extension as soon as this offseason if he has one more year to go? Well, first of all, he's coming off of really good back-to-back seasons. A potential back-to-back Cy Young Award winner in the American League. He won it in 2024. And with what he posted in the regular season of 2025, he is well on his way to earning back-to-back Cy Youngs. And he also had a fantastic time and really good numbers in the short postseason appearances that he made this season for the Detroit Tigers. And number two, not only has he proven himself with these Cy Young awards, or award right now, but probably multiple awards very soon, the CBA that takes affect the negotiations that are going to be present between the Players Association and the Players Union and the owners after the 2026 season that could pose another lockout for Major League Baseball. With no baseball, the players not getting paid as these owners push for a salary cap in baseball with these skyrocketing contracts that we've been seeing over the past couple of seasons and definitely over the past decade. There could be no baseball, which means there could be no contract. And if the owners, who will be stubborn and will be pushing for this salary cap, if they get what they want in any sort of capacity, maximizing contracts for these players is going to be an issue. And the contract valuations of what they were projected to get is only going to go down. So this could incentivize players like Skubal and the next player that we're talking about on the next slide, who might be a little bit more realistic, and I'll tell you why, than Tarik Skubal, unfortunately, to sign contracts before the 2026 season concludes. All of this is speculative. This is very early on into the offseason. And these players that we're talking about in this video have another year of control left. They have another season left before they are officially unrestricted free agents. But these are the conversations that need to start happening when you have a team that is desperate for that true number one in the rotation, like the New York Mets, as are a lot of other teams around the league. And also these players thinking about maximizing their earnings of their careers given the CBA negotiations that are coming up between the players and the owners. So $250 million apart. Long story short, Tarik Skubal entering his age 29 season. He will be 29 years old as of November 2025, this offseason, and he is in the prime of his career. He is going to want a long-term contract north of what Corbin Burnes made with the Diamondbacks last offseason. And that was a huge contract within itself. And if Skubal, and these reports are correct, that Skubal and the Detroit Tigers are already $250 million apart on a potential deal, that puts into perspective what he's actually asking for. Whether it's 7 years, whether it's 8 years, whether it's 9 years. That is going to be a mega contract. We're talking about $300 million, $350 plus million for Skubal in an extension, whether it comes from Detroit, which is highly unlikely, which is why these reports are coming out, or whether it comes from a bigger market team where Skubal would thrive, by the way, like the New York Mets. And this is where I want to bring in the conversation and my opinion, right? That I have no belief that David Stearns is going to make this type of move. But we talk about the necessity of getting on the Los Angeles Dodgers level and needing to be aggressive because we've seen David Stearns in the philosophy with the rotation going a little bit on the cheaper side over, especially last offseason and the one before that. Right? Not building a rotation that has a true ace and parting ways with the prospects like he could have done for Garrett Crochet last offseason. Well, not only will the Mets need to part ways with a plethora of prospects, we're talking about 3 top 10 prospects plus that the Tigers will be asking from any organization, let alone the New York Mets who have revamped their farm system, but also going past the idea that teams and David Stearns led teams should not be paying pitchers long-term deals that are approaching 30 years old. These are the characteristics of a potential trade that make me believe the Mets will not even entertain this idea of Tarik Skubal if talks get serious, right? Last season, I understand it was a little bit of a different circumstance for a younger player, a little bit more unproven as a starting pitcher in Garrett Crochet, and we saw what he did in a Red Sox uniform in 2025. David Stearns did not want to give up the likes of Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams in a potential trade package. Whether that got it done officially or not, that is a different story. But when you're talking about the Detroit Tigers and what their asking price is going to be, probably starting with Carson Bench and Jonah Tong, 2 top 5 prospects in this farm system already, and then some on top of that, because I think that we all agree Nolan McLean is the only untouchable, and we also mentioned this in the live stream yesterday with Rob and myself. Nolan McLean, in order to get Skubal, should be the only untouchable player in this organization right now for the New York Mets. But how much is too much for Tarik Skubal? That is really the question. That's obstacle number 1. And obstacle number 2 is if David Stearns actually gets this deal done, hypothetically speaking, again, it's very early, the contract is going to be a big hurdle. And if you are making this deal for multiple top 10 prospects to get your true ace, you cannot let him walk and be a 1-year rental. People want to compare the situation to Corbin Burnes in an Orioles uniform, which is a good starting point, but this would be much, much worse given what the Mets would have to give up. If you trade for Skubal, Steve Cohen and David Stearns have to collectively agree that Steve Cohen is going to open up his wallet and Skubal's going to be a New York Met for the next 8 to 9 years, no matter what the asking price is. So this all makes me think that this is a little bit of a pipe dream. And I'm sorry to be a downer, and I don't want to be, because I really do think with where the Mets want to be at in the National League, competing with the Dodgers next season, who are well on their way potentially to a second straight World Series appearance, they have to start getting 1A players. The Dodgers get 1A players. They don't go after 1B, 1C, option 2 players. They get 1A players. And Tarik Skubal is a 1A player. And I think that David Stearns and the Mets should be all in on him. I'm just very highly skeptical. So who else could they be on the trade market that we now know another team will be taking offers for their ace? That's Freddy Peralta. David Stearns is the same person who, when he was in Milwaukee, traded for Freddy Peralta to become a Brewer. I believe that was back in 2015, almost a decade ago. Actually, it is a decade ago. But according to this report right here, the Brewers, who are always up to something in the offseason, flipping these players, they're good players, and going towards the youth movement, which worked for them in the regular season before they got bounced out of the playoffs by the Dodgers. They're going to make Freddy Peralta available for trade and field offers for him. This is a David Stearns player. Freddy Peralta is a David Stearns guy. Freddy Peralta is also, I should preface this, not as good as Tarik Skubal. When we're talking about 1A, 1B, 1C options, Freddy Peralta is probably a 1B option behind Tarik Skubal. We all know that. That's very obvious. But Freddy Peralta is still pretty damn good. And is anyone going to complain if Freddy Peralta is a New York Met in 2026? Absolutely not. I won't complain because I've been talking about Freddy Peralta for the past 2 off seasons. I think that with what the Brewers' asking price is probably going to be, again, the same situation that Tarik Skubal is in right now is what Freddy Peralta is faced with, although Freddy Peralta is just older. A free agent after the 2026 season is not going to demand as big of a contract, clearly, as Skubal, given where they're at and the numbers that they've been posting over the past couple of seasons. But Freddy Peralta, this past season, showed that he could be an ace for a team. Perpetually in the Brewers uniform, he's been a number 2, a number 3, and a pretty good number 2 or 3 at that. But in 2025, in the regular season, he had a really good season, posting a 2.70 ERA and led the Brewers to the best record in baseball. Now, it wasn't only just him. That was a good squad. That was a really good squad all across the board. But Freddy Peralta had a lot to do with that from the pitching perspective. But the playoff numbers were lacking with Freddy Peralta. And I think that is the biggest concern with Mets fans about any player that David Stearns brings into this organization is not only how they perform in the regular season, but can they show up for this Mets team if and when they do get into the playoffs in 2026? And Freddy Peralta did not have a good go at it in 2025 in the postseason. So a little bit more of a realistic option here, I would think, for David Stearns, given the history, given his tenure in Milwaukee, given his familiarity of Freddy Peralta, but also not needing to part ways with this farm system that the Mets have built up now to be a solidified top 5 farm system, and also not needing to overpay a mega deal, a long-term contract for a pitcher, which clearly goes against the philosophy of what David Stearns has shown throughout his tenure as an MLB executive thus far. And I do think that this pitching rotation, I understand there's a youth movement. McLean, Tong, Sproat, Christian Scott's coming back. But with where the Mets are at in a win now scenario, David Stearns has to make a splash and his philosophy needs to change. And if they want to compete with the Dodgers, I'll just say this, Freddy Peralta will not be enough. We will see what happens and what transpires. These are some of my thoughts and opinions in the early goings of this offseason regarding the pitching that the Mets can and should be after. Let me know what you all think. Smash those thumbs up buttons. Subscribe to the channel. I'll be here all offseason long. And as always, let's go Mets. Hopefully, David Stearns is up to the task.